Hey, John.
Hey, here we are. Once again, it's winter officially in Oklahoma, man. We've gone. It's the day before the Marine Corps birthday,
Okay.
which is the day before Armistice Day. So the Marines have a day off after they celebrate the happy night. But this year is the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps founding. So
Oh,
wow,
wow.
we
Quarter
only do
millennium.
that once every 250 years, Nick. So this is gonna be a blowout. I don't expect to see another one of these in my lifetime. So anyway, it's well, I'm glad we're doing this show. We're doing another show where we just go through the comment threads because I went back after our last one of these and said, look, there's we're getting something like 30 comments and likes a day on previous posts. And people are going back now into the Conrecki things and stuff. So, and all those things are lost because people put the notes in the Conrecki things and no one's looking at those
No.
things. So we're trying to reanimate some of these discussions and lines, and some of them. Um, well, we're going to start off with one, Nick. That's.
Well, yeah. So
I think it may be
it's
I think it may be a better story than the story that Rowling is writing.
it's
I mean, you're laughing, but am I crazy? I mean,
no,
that to me is.
you really aren't. It's but people are gonna wonder um how we why are we choosing these comments in particular? Because there are so many just amazing comments out there. It's we could do a dozen of these shows, but we're getting so many great comments every day. Guys, please read the comments. That they're in many ways they're better than the articles. Now I know.
Oh, wait a minute, Nick. Whoa,
No, I
whoa, whoa,
know.
whoa, whoa. Gosh, don't go there.
So
Anyway, well, the one we're going to start off with, the guy deserves this. The guy should have his own Substack. I say guy. I don't know who J.S. Malixon is, and
he's a
what's the nickname for J.S. Malixon? We can't, J.S.
I think
J.S.
JS to his or her friends. I think yeah, a very close reader, a scholar, and just an amazing piece of deduction with a workable theory. So
Yeah, and what let's let me do the Gilderoy thing and say
yeah,
he's also very gracious in saying that he was inspired by what we're doing here. That was
yeah,
great. Thank you, JS, for the hat tip. But really, he went back and read Running Grave and went through all the things that happened with Ryan
yeah.
Murphy there. Um, I'm sorry, JS, if you're a woman and we're calling you a he. It's just going to be a default thing here. Um, anyway, JS, I'm going to read this one, Nick, if you don't mind.
Yeah. No, no, no.
All right. Well, in brief, this is the Ryan Murphy killed Charlotte theory. All right. This is the Murphy did it theory. Most people don't even believe that Charlotte was killed, and we've got a Murphy did it theory. I love it. Okay. As you may have noticed, my first theory is a bit of work in progress. In keeping with the Hogwarts Professor Rolling Studies standards, I am striving to put it all together and set forth a textual basis for my contention that the relapsing, unstable RFM we see in the later parts of Running Grave and all of Hallmarked Man is the dirty bomb left by Charlotte with the intent of exacting revenge on Robin and Strike. Now, that's a better name than Murphy did it, is Charlotte's dirty bomb. All right. In Running Grave, after listening to a portion of Charlotte's final 3 voicemail messages, Strike frets about the possibility that Charlotte will seek out RFM and spin a web of lies to him. He expresses concern in his inner monologue that RFM would have no loyalty to Strike and that Murphy could use the information to turn Robin against him. Now, I don't remember that inner monologue. I'm gonna have to look that up. But I'm really have my confidence in JS that I haven't even looked that up. Understanding that I may be in Nutter Drawer Gateshead territory and mindful that I am diverging from my original post slightly, I contend that Murphy met up with Charlotte at some point, maybe in the month or 2 before she died. She used McCabe's, the agency she hired to get dirt on Yago in Ink Black Heart, to get info on Robin, discovered Murphy, contacted him, seduced him, and filled his head with lies about Strike and Robin. On the night Charlotte dies, Murphy is there. They are drinking together. They get into a fight. She assaults him like she assaulted Strike and Dormer. And because he is, quote, mean and aggressive when he gets drunk, yes, this is where this line from Wardle in Running Grave becomes relevant. He hits her back, they fight, and she dies. He makes the murder look like a suicide, writes a suicide note that is based on the information that she has given him about Strike and her family and her kids. There is nothing in the suicide note about Strike being in love with Robin. Remember, the only evidence that this appears in the note is Strike's egotistical presumption that is based solely on Strike's conjecture. Murphy uses his position in the Met to make sure the final determination is suicide. The guilt and self-loathing he feels thereafter causes him to spend as much time as possible in Spain rather than taking the earlier flight to see Robin after she escapes from Chapman Farm. It also causes him to declare his love for Robin on his first night back with her. He's drinking and unraveling, and he thinks if he can make it work with Robin and rescue her from an abusive Strike, it will make up for the fact that he committed murder. He's going to try to save Robin. I just love that. Yes, this is great stuff. I mean, this explains why Murphy's what he's doing. This also explains his mistakes in the gang shooting case, including roughing up a suspect and all the descriptions of him being overly stressed and exhausted, including on the night he got Robin pregnant. This is the thought process that led me to post under Nick's Charlotte was murdered thread. It just took me a little longer to articulate it. Once again, thanks to both of you for all the fine work you do. Wow.
Wow.
What do you think of it? So Charlotte's dirty bomb, Nick. I mean
it works, doesn't it?
I mean, just we've been told from the very start that Charlotte gives back much more than she takes.
Yeah.
You know, that she is going to do everything possible to throw a wrench in everything to do with Strike. And she says, I've never felt more jealous of anyone than Robin, that girl Robin. And so she goes after Murphy, sleeps with him. I mean, that's the best part is that Charlotte seducing him. I mean, all she has to do is get him a little bit drunk and then be Charlotte. And you know, this guy is a goner. But then Murphy, the murderer. What do you think, Nick?
Wow. I think it's credible. I love the fact that Sarah Keeler wrote a comment under that ties it in to what I think is going to turn out to be one of the pivotal parts. Indeed, it is the central part of the Hallmarked Man, which is Valentine Lancaster's interview with Robin. So she writes, I've been wondering if Valentine was referring to Ryan in part of his horrible interview with Robin in the Hallmarked Man. It's clear from the Brokeby comment that at least some of his comments are definitely about Strike. But if your theory is correct, Valentine could also be playing games with Robin here, enjoying realizing that she has no idea RFM and Charlotte were in contact. So do you remember when Valentine made the comment that Strike said some horrible things to Charlotte on the night she died? Robin comes back with, well, no, they didn't talk, or Strike didn't pick up the phone. And Valentine says, well, you need better effing sources then, don't you? So my assumption was always that source was he's had sight of the suicide note. But what if that source actually was RFM? What if Murphy has talked to Valentine?
Oh, well, all I can say is you heard it here first, folks. And thank you, JS, for running this up for us. Seriously, if true, is you know, he's revealed the great twist of the last two books. I mean, I just love that. This is like, you know, Harry is a Horcrux on steroids. You know, this. All right. I don't know how much more to say about this, Nick, other than, it fits perfectly with what we know about Charlotte. That she is in it to destroy Strike and Robin.
Yes.
Now I don't think she planned on getting murdered by Murphy. That may have come as a surprise to her. But Murphy, as a man who is mean and aggressive when he gets drunk, as
Yes.
JS points out, that Wardle drops that line in there. Why drop that line in there? We've seen nothing about him being mean and aggressive when he gets drunk. He seems to be a very lucid drunk, if anything. He's drinking all the time, apparently, through Hallmarked Man. But we get the clue from Wardle in Running Grave that he's mean and aggressive when he gets drunk. We actually, from what we know about him, because of his relations with that woman in the bar after his separation from his wife, right? That he gets amorous when he gets drunk.
Nothing in a skirt is safe, apparently.
That's right. So, oh well. And then what I love is the tying into his trip to Spain and everything like that, about how he's really conflicted, but now he's trying to save Robin from what he's been told about Strike.
Yeah.
And he believes. I don't think he ever saw through Charlotte as being, a nutter or a liar. So this is, because if he believes that Charlotte is a nutter and a liar, he's going to understand that that she seduced him not because he was that attractive a man. That she was just using him to get at Robin and Strike. Now, anyway, it's a great theory. And we're going to be running with that one.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking about this one, I think, until Strike 10. So, but we're definitely everyone here at Hogwarts Professor, I think, is on board with the idea that J.S. Malleckson has really run with here, and that is that we get in Hallmarked Man all of Robin and Strike's thinking and thoughts about the two of them and not communicating to each other, and it's all about them. And Murphy is like, to Strike, is this superheroed, the GQ figure that Robin can't possibly resist because he's so handsome and healthy. Well, in fact, Murphy clearly is a broken alcoholic that is hanging on by his fingernails. And he's plotting something. He's doing something behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Now, what JS has done is gone back to Running Grave and said, it wasn't just in Hallmarked Man he was doing things. No. This story goes back as soon as Murphy hooks up with Robin. That makes him part of the Charlotte story, because she's going to find out about him and do what she can to hurt Robin the way she feels that Robin has hurt her by preventing Strike from coming back to Charlotte. Wow. When I read this, I was just like shaking.
Yes.
Wow,
huge thank you, JS, for sharing that with us. I think this is great. This is a theory that is certainly going to have legs. And another theory which we're fairly certain is going to have legs in Strike 9 and 10 is Cupid and Psyche. And we think it's a near certainty because John Granger has been writing about this for many, many years. It received a small boost about a month ago when J.K. Rowling jumped on the bandwagon and posted a picture of Cupid and Psyche. So we've had a wonderful take from Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. She writes, so interesting to hear your take about the resolution of the revelation on the stairs. That's not how I read it at all, but I see how you came to your conclusion. I think we are being set up for Robin's disappearance, whether by choice or force. Throughout the Hallmarked Man, we are told Robin needs time alone to sort out her emotions, and she longs to escape. I think the phone call from is Murphy trying to get in touch with Strike because she didn't show up at the dinner. And the 9th book will be Strike's search for her, parallel to the Cupid and Psyche myth. Anyway, Thank you for your insights. You've helped me to appreciate Rowling's work on a much deeper level, as well as Rowling's talents as a master storyteller. Now we
Okay,
know,
this is Catherine with a
yeah,
C. We have
yes,
a Kathleen
we have a
O'Connor
Catherine with
too,
a
right? So
K.
not the
Yeah.
yeah, okay, just,
So thank you, Catherine with a C. Um,
oh,
we know Rowling uh, likes to play with different genres of detective fiction and uh, thriller styles in each book. She hasn't done a missing person inquiry.
well,
Well, yeah, could you take the Hallmark Man as being a misspit? Not really, because they
I'm
were
thinking
they
Troubled
were
Blood.
charged with proving he was dead.
Troubled Blood is a missing person
Well,
story because we don't know what happened.
Troubled Blood was a cold case.
Eh. Cuckoo's Calling was a cold case. They shut the case down. Troubled
Yeah,
Blood was a missing persons case that had just extinguished.
yeah.
Um, so I think you're onto something here, though, Nick. Forgive me for interrupting and saying no, you're wrong, because yes, you're right. That what we're really looking at is a hostage case.
Okay.
That that thing where Catherine says um, she disappears by by choice or by force.
Yeah,
That 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 missing person slash hostage case, um, is it is a fascinating possibility.
yeah.
What about this phone call? The phone call is Murphy trying to get in touch with Strike. There's a phone call right at the very end when he comes back up the stairs?
Yes, there's a phone call that doesn't get answered.
Okay, that's a little too soon after Robin has left, isn't it?
Yes, unless there's a gap in the narrative that we haven't spotted. So it's
Okay.
between the Pat leaving the office and Strike beginning his goldfish repair activity.
Wait, isn't it more likely that the phone call is Robin saying, I'm taking a month off?
It could be, or it could be an artificial voice saying, "If you ever want to see your partner again."
Once again, Nick, that's really
but
good.
but a great,
That's good.
yeah, I mean, great theories. I know that last episode has disappointed a lot of people, but I think again that's going to be one of those scenes that we're going to read and reread and see levels to it that we're just not going to understand until the next books.
Yeah, and I um hasn't hasn't Roland Galbraith said that the next book begins 20 seconds after the this last
Well,
one
I think
ends?
I think so. She's given 5 minutes, and lots
5
of
minutes.
lots of wonderful and wonderfully obsessive people have been using Google Roots to calculate how far away Robin could get in 5 minutes from Denmark Street. Is it possible to get to the Ritz if there's a taxi outside with the door open waiting for her?
Good. That's good sleuthing. I am uh what I love about this, first of all, Catherine, is um you tied in the Cupid and Psyche myth, because I
Yeah,
mean, Rowling has definitely cued us that the next book is going to be about sort of the end of the myth. And we're going to come back to that, the Cupid and Psyche myth. Someone else has written about that in the notes that Nick chose. Notice, Nick, I'm going to blame
thanks,
all of
thanks,
the
John.
people that got cut out. Nick cut you out. Uh, anyway, this theory is a great one. It
Yeah,
fits in with my Akunin theory that she's, as Nick has pointed out, that every one of these books is a different sort of thriller, mystery, detective novel. Uh, And we haven't done a hostage case yet. What if Robin has been snatched?
Yeah.
Now, people won't like that because they prefer Artemis Robin rather than hostage Robin. But no doubt, hostage Robin will be able to figure out some way to
Yeah.
escape or to signal her or to psychologically manipulate her
So
captor.
just to argue against the theory, because I feel I have to play devil's advocate, if Robin gets forcibly kidnapped 5 minutes after the end of the Hallmarked Man, after she's already suffering what's essentially a PTSD induced breakdown, I have to question the sanity of J.K. Rowling and just how flinty hard that chip of ice in her heart is, because that's going to be utter cruelty.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Um, I like the idea that Robin herself realizes that, I mean, she's as pointed out, she feels that she needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
She needs time to sort out her emotions, as Catherine puts it. She longs to escape. She has that very brief visit in Sardinia, and she's like, "Oh, this is what I need." I think after Strike saying, "Marry me," and she's on her way to see Murphy, where he's going to say, "Marry me," and she understands that she is in free fall. She's a
Yeah.
train wreck. She's been beaten, molested, psychologically tortured. I mean, I think she has enough of self-awareness to say, I'm not in any position to be making any kind of decisions, and I'm certainly not up to sitting down at the Ritz for dinner with my alcoholic boyfriend in recovery. She thinks. Um, I think I like the idea that Robin just outside the door just called and said, "I'm taking a month off. Um, adjust the roster."
I mean, you've got
um,
you've got to think that she's essentially got zero support network, even though everybody loves Robin. So Vanessa Requenzi, she's on maternity leave. Ilsa, she's got a young child. Her family are not going to be emotionally disengaged.
Martin's there for her. Martin is there for her.
Yeah, she's. I think that's really plausible and probably a really good idea for Robin to disengage and hook up with the sweary psychologist.
Yeah, I think. But first, she'll go to see Prudence.
Yeah,
Her first stop. Prudence has got a nice big house or flat.
yeah,
I don't know what. And say, Prudence, I've got to. I'm done. I'm broken.
yeah,
And Prudence is sympathetic to her relationship with Strike. Now Strike has broken down and finally admitted that he loves her. Prudence is going to do the full thing. That's what Prudence means, right?
yeah,
She's Miss Practical Wisdom. Let's take care of this woman. So, Catherine, I think you're right on target. I don't think it's Murphy. I think it's Robin saying, "I'm done. I'm done.
yeah.
I'm surrounded by crazy men, one of whom I'm in love with, one of whom I've said I'm in love with."
Well, she thinks no, she's in love with him.
Oh, that's right. She knows. Yeah. Okay. Again, another great theory. And Catherine, thank you for thanking us. It's conversations like these that make Nick and I, just laugh and say, "Wow, this is so rich to have this kind of conversation with people." All right, Nick, let's talk about something a little lighter here.
Okay.
How about some incest? All right. How about some brother-sister incest? Okay. June McGarry wrote pretty soon after the book.
Thank you, June.
June McGarry writes, "What if Ted and Peggy Lita are only half siblings? Ted's mother may have died, and Trevick could have married again." Now, first of all, June, I love the way you think. That is so good. All right, and I've been thinking along the same lines. Okay, my thought, though, given the gap between Edward and Margaret Nancaro, and the separation of father and daughter at the mother's death was that the first mother had found a lover as an escape from Trevick's abuse and neglect, whence Leda, much like the conception of the murderer in Career of Evil, Donnie Lang. The half-siblings parallel lines up with the incest of Hallmarked Man, as well as the several other half-siblings we have in Strike's family, and at the story point of origin with Lula Landry. Okay? Wow. Anyway, that was June's first post, I think, at Hogwarts Professor. I was like,
yeah,
loving it, loving it. So I think they would have mentioned if there had been another mother. That's the only problem I have with June's formulation of the theory.
yeah.
I much prefer that Ted's mother had a lover, and that's why Trevick didn't want anything to do with Leda, and that Edward, with that huge gap, Uncle Ted, might have had relations with his sister, whence that being the conception of Cormoran Strike. Woo! Because we have, this half brother incest in Hallmarked Man, so it's really been highlighted for everybody. She can't say, "Oh, I've never talked to you about brother sister incest," because we had that with the Noel and Holly Brockbank.
Yeah.
In Career of Evil. So, wow, I'm liking it, June. What do you think, Nick?
Well, all that Nancaro exposition that we get in part 1 of the Hallmarked Man is going to be needed, because it wasn't needed in book 8. It's going to be needed in books 9 and 10. Now, that family tree, that history, Rowling would have done as a matter of course anyway. It's the way she works. So she always goes beyond the margin of the page. But if history with Harry Potter has told us anything, if it's not needed in the book, we don't see it. Now, occasionally some things are dropped and not used, and maybe that's abandoned plot lines and things like that. But if you look at all the family trees that she had in the paperwork that is in her archives, there's just so much there that she's released since, but was never needed for the plot, so it was never introduced. But for her to feel comfortable with the characters, she had to know that background. So I'm sure she's had this background before, and she's decided we need to know it. And she's dropped it. She's realized, I think, as she was writing book 8, that we need to know it. And she's dropped it as far away from books 9 and 10 as she can. So again, it's a little bit.
And Nick, she also drops it when we're still in shock from the death of Uncle Ted.
Yes. Yeah.
It comes in this wave. We're just like, what? Yeah. Ted is dead.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so it's going to be important. So I think everyone's right to be thinking about, okay, what was the family dynamics? There's a large age difference between Ted and Margaret. How old was Margaret when he left to join the military police? And start thinking about that, because that's going to be important, I think, in one of the 2 future books.
Yeah. But yeah, incest. How about some more incest, Nick? Because we haven't had enough incest.
So this is from Tam Spells. So this is
I think that's Tam's Pels. But anyway. Again, we don't know male or female.
Yes. So this is this is looking at, rather than the slightly concerning Nancaro family dynamics, this is the known and extremely disturbing Charlotte and wider family dynamics. So Tam Spells or Tam's Pels writes, I really hate the Ted theory, but I think you're right about the incest, only I think it's about Charlotte, not Strike. We get told in book 2 that she had a stepfather try to have her committed, and then in book 8 we find out about Dino and the teenager. Tara Claremont's reaction and the row ending in an injured shoulder and overturned table seems a lot, but it would make sense if the teenager was Charlotte. Then we get Dino being completely obsessed with having everything that is beautiful and perfect, and Charlotte as the beautiful woman with flawless skin, etc. It would explain so much about Charlotte. So Charlotte was a young teenager, wasn't she, when she first started playing up? So I think early teens when she first ran away from school. So maybe
If I could see,
that could have been the spark that first troubled Charlotte. Although this is of course horrible, I mean we know her family life was horrible anyway.
and we know that Dino is horrible.
Yes.
I mean, he's largely responsible for the whole Rupert Fleetwood nightmare. I mean, we learn in Hallmarked Man that he is the father of Rupert Fleetwood, and
Yeah.
hence the Fleetwoods wanting nothing to do with him
Yeah.
because they know that Dino is the father, and that Dino's abusing him when he comes to work for him, even though it's his biological son. I mean, this guy is a bad dad, Nick.
Yes.
And that bad dad, presentation that we get, no one worse than Dino. And Tam Spell's theory, which is that, correct me if I'm wrong in this, because this is, I don't really spend a lot of my time, Nick, thinking about incest. So let's see if we can get this going here. Is that Dino had an affair or molested? Is any incestuous relationship not technically rape when it's parent child? That he molested his stepdaughter, and that's what caused Tara Claremont, etc., to go ballistic, and why she hates Dino with the crazy passion that she does is that he found her daughter more attractive than her. Anyway, Tam Spell's hat off. This is a wild and wacky theory that has all the resonance of truth. And what we have to have a name for this one. What's the name for this theory? Dino the molester. I mean, this is
Dino is just as bad as everyone assumes he is.
That's wouldn't that be something? If a bad guy from the very beginning turns out to be just a bad guy. Now it does make it odd that she would be that close to Valentine Lancaster.
Yeah.
Unless because he has some kind of relationship with his father. You think that Charlotte would want nothing.
It makes it also slightly odd that Charlotte would joke about them having a potentially incestuous relationship because her mother knew his father. But then, I mean, Charlotte can be just that crazy.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I don't think we've really at all explored the depths of Charlotte craziness. I mean, Strike has said this is first tier mad woman, and yet what has she really done that's just been mad in the books?
She's acted unstable, unreasonable, a monomaniac. She has been untruthful.
Where's the plotting? Strike says that she's a plotter and that she's, someone who just works to destroy other people's lives for revenge. Where's been the revenge that we've been waiting on? All she does is beg him to come back.
Yeah.
J.S. Mallickson's theory, that's crazy. That's crazy. Charlotte seducing Murphy to, blow up his relationship with Robin and to plan a bomb to get it strike. That's to seduce a man inside the Met in order to get him to be her weapon inside the Met. That's the kind of crazy we've been told is Charlotte level crazy.
Yeah.
And then Tamspell says we haven't been told why really she's that crazy. It just seems she's saying you don't just come out of the womb nuts like this.
No.
Tamspell's theory that she was molested by her stepfather would explain why she doesn't, her relationship with her family and any kind of institutions of authority is problematic.
Yeah.
So I'm with Tamspell's. I think we have to give serious credibility, serious credibility to this idea that Charlotte was molested by Dino Lancaster. And as you point out, we might never hear about it.
No.
Why wouldn't Charlotte have told this to Strike? I mean, were there any horrible secrets about her family she didn't share? Why wouldn't she share that Dino Lancaster molested her?
Don't know. I don't know, but I think it's still it's a possible. It's got to be a possible. Now, I love this next one because it demonstrates why reading the comment section of the Substack is as good as or better than doing a series reread, because you have all these clever, attentive readers pick up stuff that I just completely missed. John, this one was from Vicky, wasn't it?
Yeah, Vicky, and it's about, it points out why we have to do a names thing. But I'm not even sure if I'd done a names thing that I would have come up with what Vicky came up with. Yeah, you go back and you reread, like I'll be doing a reread just for the names. I have to do a names post like I did for Trouble in Blood. I don't think I would have come up with this, Nick, because I wouldn't have searched for names that sound like names. So here's Vicky's thing. Vicky put this up pretty soon after Hallmarked Man came out. When I first saw the client's name, Decima Mullins, with an I, in the synopsis, I wondered if there was a connection to Johnny Rokeby's first wife, whose name is Shirley Mullins, with an E, and his daughter Mamie. I dismissed this because of the different spellings of Mullins and Mullens. Excuse me. But after reading the book and writing about Dick DeLion's real name being Dick DeLeon with an E, not an I, I'm wondering now if there might really be a connection, after all, between Mullins and Mullens. We know that Decima got her surname from her first husband, so maybe he's connected to Shirley Mamie, who is connected to Rokeby. In Cormoran and Rokeby's meetup, Rokeby briefly mentions Mamie. I was too young when I had my first, didn't understand what it was. This might fall into your first point of writing, setting things up for books 9 and 10 by getting us familiar with key characters, the main being the Charlotte Campbell Ross extended family, and also Rokeby and Leda's past. I also feel like Strike Sr., Leda's first husband, whom she got her surname from, fits into all this somewhere. After finding out the story Leda told Strike about his conception, which influenced a large part of his view of Rokeby and himself, was far from truth, maybe we're supposed to question whether there might have been more to Strike Sr. and her reasons for marrying him than we were originally told. I'm still learning rolling shed tools, Lake Springs, and golden threads. Hey, join the, all of us are, believe me, the mythologies, and I haven't finally fully got down the surface story of Hallmarked Man yet, but so thankful to you and the team for your heavy lifting and deep insight. We have such kind writers, such kind readers, Nick. I mean, yeah, we're doing this out of a labor of love, and to have all of you join us in this shed tools, Lake Springs, golden threads, etc., Vicky, is the best. Especially because I think you're right that we have to look at things like Mullins and Mullens as possible relations. I mean, it's an interesting one, and it's growing on me. First, the two names share a listing in the Oxford University Press Dictionary of English Surnames. We usually call it Reaney and Wilson, that we know that Rowling owns a copy of and she uses. Okay, it's on page 316 of that book, and both names mean dweller at the mills. Second, the Rokeby-Mullins relationship, per the Cuckoo Wikipedia entry for the deadbeat, ended in 1973. Let me read that. Rokeby has been married 3 times to an art school girlfriend, Shirley Mullins, with an E, with whom he has 1 daughter, Mamie, to model actress and human rights activist Carla Astolfi, with whom he has 2 daughters. Excuse me. And to film producer Jenny Graham, with whom he has 2 sons, Edward and Al. Strike has claimed that his conception blew up Rokeby's second marriage, though it occurred before the rock star's 1975 marriage to Carla Astolfi. In their Hallmarked Man conversation, Rokeby admits that he was sleeping with Lita Strike the month before his wedding, which may have been enough to move Astolfi to make a lucrative exit several years ex post facto. Now, I find this interesting with respect to the 1973 breakup with Mullins and Rokeby, because Rokeby said he had sex with Lita as many as 20 times, which makes it possible that Shirley left Johnny also because of his relationship with the super groupie. Mullins' divorce, in this light, seems a natural response to a husband's infidelity, and Astolfi's more akin to that of Mrs. A's calculation and profit-taking in Hallmarked Man. One more point. Have a look at Valentine Lancaster's comments about Decima Mullins' first husband in the interview the stylist did in Hallmarked Man, which Nick and others think Shirley thinks is a great one. After calling Mullins a gigolo and a leech, he says Mullins was a better-looking Fleetwood. Shitty business ideas, trying to make everyone invest, then bolt for someone better looking once he realized Decima wasn't actually a cash point, just shaped like one. Boy, he's despicable. Anyway, that's page 448. Mullins, then, is exactly the kind of self-interested lover, one whose desires are realizing his own designs or pleasure, not those of his or her partner, that Eros Cupid inflames with his arrows, the only kind of love, frankly, that the superficial Lancaster understands. That's why he's Valentine Long. I mean, he is Cupid, right? Strike has no connections with the children of Rokeby's first 2 wives. Only Prudence and Al have hit it off with him in any way. Is Rowling suggesting that those first 2 relationships, like Mullins-Lancaster, were mercenary rather than real love matches? That's a stretch, of course. But it's one that involves thinking about the edifying and challenging Eros and Taurus distinction, so I'm not going to disavow it. Anyway, Vicky, great catch. Thanks for pointing out the similar names. An accidental association that totally escaped me. This is, Nick, when you read the comments, and they come up in our inboxes. Every time you put a comment in, it comes right into our inbox. I just usually I do it first thing in the morning, and I'm just staring at the computer like, wow, that's great. I mean, seriously, it's as if Nick and I are, we get to pretend we're the authorities here, and we put out kind of the sketchy ideas about how to read these books. And then the real close readers come in and just like moths to a flame, and they share with us all the jewels that they've found.
Okay,
it's great stuff.
I mean, that's Vicky. That is superb. But if that wasn't enough, so we have Kathleen with a K, Kathleen O'Connor, another great contributor. So she writes, "Have you clocked the other Fleetwood in the series? Jasper Chisel's first wife was born Lady Patricia Fleetwood and had enough of her own wealth to bestow sizable trust funds on Izzy and Fizzy. I assume she would be somehow related to Peter Fleetwood, possibly through a younger son who inherited neither title nor wealth." Again, completely missed it, but what an absolute gem And this is an exact match. So we have a Fleetwood, and it's not that common a name, I don't think.
Well, repeatedly through the book, I don't know how many times, Nick. I'll leave that to you to figure out. But how many times does Nick does Rokeby does broke Corporal Rokeby? How many times does Strike say there's a group of people inside the UK that all know each other
Yeah,
and they're all related and they're all and you say to yourself, oh yeah, here's Strike doing his anti-elite thing. And then we get this name, Fleetwood, that you say is not a commonplace in the UK. And it connects two seemingly, absolutely separate storylines. So Kathleen, you've put your marker down.
yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, it's made us, reassemble how we imagine these characters fitting together, which is brilliant. And Kathleen, some people, especially the paid subscribers, they write to me directly and they share with me really what are messages that are as long as posts and as involved and as thoughtful as anything that I'm writing. So that's my way of saying, Kathleen, I got your note and I'm working my way through it. Now on to Sandy Hope, not Sandra. It's Sandy.
Ah, and just another brilliant insight. So uh, again, John and I know a lot of contributors have been looking at the Cupid and Psyche myth post Rowling's post, trying to work it into the story. John, do you want to read this? Because it's a great insight and another one that I just hadn't considered.
Okay. Sandy writes, I love your train of thought, John. I have a question proposition. Was Kim Cochran a plant spy within the agency? Clearly, she was feeding information to someone, Branford and Culpepper, but also Wardle said about Murphy, no one in a skirt is safe. So have he and Kim ever had a fling? And if so, when? Here's the meat of this one. Having read the myth a couple times, I'm wondering if these two, Kim and Murphy, are the envious sisters, because their envy of Strike causes so many problems for the agency and the partners' relationship. For both of them, lying is their bread and butter. Now, Sandy doesn't spell this out because she assumes that everybody is absolutely conversant with Cupid and Psyche. But yeah, it's a key part of the Cupid and Psyche myth that Psyche, happy as can be with her in the darkness lover who comes to her in this beautiful bower, this paradise bower. She begs Cupid for permission to have her sisters come to visit, and her sisters, who have married very well in terms of their material condition, they can't believe the largesse and beauty of the place where their sister Psyche lives. Remember, Psyche was supposed to have been thrown from a mountaintop.
Yeah.
And they always must have been jealous of her because she was the most beautiful woman ever. But now she's not only survived being thrown from the mountaintop, she lives in paradise. So they poison her mind by saying, this guy that you're sleeping with is actually the monster that was going to eat you on the mountaintop. And you've got to find out and you've got to kill him if it's the monster. So you're not eating yourself. He's just waiting for his moment. Well, that's when Psyche takes her lamp and a knife and looks at her lover in the darkness. It's Cupid. Oil from the lamp spills on Cupid, injures him. He flies off, feeling betrayed. That was the condition, right? And she begins her exile. She begins her search for Cupid and her flight from Venus. But it all comes down to the jealousy of the two sisters, who are destroyed afterwards. Some of the versions of the myth have the destruction of the two sisters by Psyche, where she sets them up, where they get thrown from the mountaintop. They throw themselves from the mountaintop. So here's Sandy's theory is that we haven't had any representation of the sisters. Now, I theorized in my first writings about it that Ilsa was the jealous sister. Um, you know, Kim and Murphy make a much better. I mean, Ilsa, we like Ilsa. You know, the only reason that Ilsa works is because Strike talked about the Great Sisterhood Grievance Committee in Troubled Blood, and it fits there because of the timing. We haven't had the the meeting in the Bower where they both admit to being best mates. So that's just more thing. This is kind of out of order to have the sisters this far into the story. But boy, in terms of the thing, and here's the great thing, Sandy. I've been in communication with a professor in Glasgow of all things, and is it Glasgow or Glasgow, Nick?
Glasgow.
Glasgow. Okay. Whew,
Or
how embarrassing.
if you're Berkeley, it's Glasgow.
Okay. So, all right. So Glasgow, at the university there's a wonderful professor who cannot be named right now. We're hoping to get her on the show, but she wrote to me with Sandy's theory, saying the same thing, that she thought that the sisters were the people were basically Kim and Murphy. So this is Sandy, you're with great company here. Let me tell you, and both of you saw something that the person who supposedly, the Cupid and Psyche guy totally missed. I mean, this is humility 101. All right, and I love it because you're right. It's their envy of Strike that causes so many problems for the agency and the partners' relationship. I think that's if we see Robin as Psyche and Strike as Cupid, then Kim's attempt basically to seduce Strike as Cupid is an absolute parallel for that. Kim Cochran's name is definitely on the names list because it's pretty vulgar there. But anyway, and Murphy is also super envious of Strike. I mean, we get all of Strike's hatred of Murphy and his jealousy and such, but Murphy's is at least as intense in reverse. He hates Strike, and he's paralyzed because he can't say anything unkind to Robin about him. We know he's doing something. So I think, Sandy, that this is a spot on catch. Nick?
Yeah, fantastic.
What do you think?
Fantastic.
What do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Such a superb spot. And again, once somebody explains it to you, as Sandy did, it's obvious. Yeah, yes, of course. So if we're saying that Strike is Cupid, anyone who's painting Strike as a monster, or at least because he's pretty monstrous at parts of this book, at least more of a monster than he really is, that's going to be the Envious Sisters. A brilliant spot. And we've got another great spot from the wonderful Kelly Loomis. Again, it's a Cupid, it's a Cupid and Psyche. And so this is from the denouement of the Silkworm. So this is the Chelsea Arts Club garden. So she writes, in your discussions of the Cupid Psyche myth clues in the past, have you brought up the Chelsea Arts Club garden scene from the Silkworm? Strike positions himself near a pond where a plump bronze Cupid sat in the middle of a clamshell. It's here he has further discussions about Bombyx Mori with Fancourt and is joined by Tassel. Her failed love life, and especially hurt at the hands of Fancourt, is front and center of the discussion, where Strike then reveals her as the killer. And John, I think you responded to Kelly, didn't you?
Yeah, first I want to say congratulations to Kelly. She's recently a grandmother. Hooray, Kelly!
Well done, Kelly.
Yeah, youngest grandmother ever. Anyway, she first I want to say that plump bronze Cupid sat in the middle of a clamshell. Do you think, Nick, that's a reference to Botticelli's Venus on a Half Shell? The Venus thing, playing on the relationship of Venus and Cupid there?
Yes, I
Gotta
guess
be.
so. I mean, that's a very famous image, but as you rightly point out, it is Venus Aphrodite rather than Cupid in the famous image. But maybe the artist who was doing it was intending to play off that relationship.
Yeah, that's good. Anyway, what I love is this is the Arts Club garden, and so we're being, it's about art, and here's the piece of art in the middle of the scene. And no, I don't think I've talked about this. So it's a great catch, Kelly. I mean, it turns out that there are 6 point-blank mentions of Cupid in the first 7 Strike novels, 2 of which are to that statue. Another is to the Antero statue in Piccadilly Circus. One is to Cupidity. Kia Nevin had a Cupid's bow mouth in Ink Black Heart. And
Yeah,
the most important one is to the epigraph of chapter 73 in Troubled Blood, which of course comes from Fairy Queen. And this one is because Cupid, Eros, Anteros in Fairy Queen is such a huge theme, and Rowling only gets to that in chapter 73. And I'm going to read that, even though, and all you Spencerians, close your ears, cover your ears, because John is going to try to read this. Okay. For natural affection soon doth cease, and quenched is with Cupid's greater flame. But faithful friendship doth them both suppress, and them with maestering discipline doth tame, through thoughts aspiring to eternal fame. Now, Nick, that's the Cupid's greater flame, is faithful friendship, is the Anteros, is that side of things. And that goes right to your theory about Robin and Strike being friends to the end,
yeah,
rather than lovers. So yeah, thank you, Kelly, for making me do the search for all the Cupids that are in this. But yeah, this is I'm really glad that we got that tweet from Rowling saying that, hey, folks, Cupid and Psyche. Yeah. What else can she do? She's done the tattoo, Nick. She's done the
yeah.
mythology. What else can she do for me? How about something about the ring writing? Could she possibly say something about the ring writing? Gosh.
Which,
All right.
to be fair, she
We're
does
back to
keep publishing ring-written books. I think that's got to be a bit of a hat tip.
that's good. All right. Now we're back to June McGarry.
Ah,
Okay. And
June, June scares us all occasionally, John.
yeah, this one really, when I read it, I thought, what, is she saying what I think she's saying? So I mean, why don't you read this one, Nick?
Okay,
I share my
so
aghast response.
hold on to your hats, everyone. June writes about this DNA test. Why did Strike go into the bathroom to do his cheek swab? What if he came with a swab from someone else? Because he was truly worried he is the father of Bijou's child. And when he gets the telephone confirmation that he isn't the father, his relief is because he knows the switch worked.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Now, June, I don't often say to people, you got to be wrong. You have got to be wrong. There's just simply no way this can be true. Because with any other author, that's a perfectly legitimate take. But, you're scaring me here, June. Okay. The idea is plausible, but it would mean that Rowling Galbraith had made a deliberate break with everything she has written previously, which would really be something, right? In every book we have from the Presence herself, the viewpoint is third person, limited omniscient, almost exclusively. We get the reader is given an honest report of what happens as seen by the character and a direct link to what the person is thinking, feeling, and planning. They are undependable narrators, of course, but only in the sense that what they observe or think is wrong or filled with misplaced conclusions. What we get in that Savoy suite scene is Strike wondering himself why he chose to go into the bathroom rather than his thinking, now I've got her. I can put Saul Morris's DNA on this swab. I love the Saul Morris thing. It would also mean that the relief he expresses in the car is feigned and the reader is not told that is happening, which would work if that exchange was told primarily from Robin's perspective, her listening and observing Strike, but it isn't. We get it from Strike's perspective as well. This is a fascinating idea again. And there is something really weird about his going into the bathroom.
So
maybe it's just, it's because what's her name is doing something with, weird about this, right?
There's lots of questions, isn't there? So why isn't Bijou concerned that Strike is going off into a different room? More importantly, why isn't the world-renowned King's Council concerned that he's willing to accept a paternity result that is administered off-site, out of his sight, out of Bijou's sight, with no sort of control or chain of custody? Something is not right there.
Yeah, everybody accepts it. Rokeby, the lawyer, the news people, when Strike, plays that as his trump card, nobody says, let's see that test. That's show us those results. Oh no, we take that just on the authority of Johnny Rokeby's lawyer. Okay. Maybe they hated Culpepper. They just wanted to get rid of him. But I'm telling you, Nick, that as I'm telling you, I'm saying you're right. There's something really wrong with that scene. And June, I really hope you're wrong in what you're saying is wrong with that scene. But because again, that would mean that Rowling has been deceptive in a way that's just not playing fair. I mean, she's good enough at narrative misdirection that she doesn't need to cheat. And that would be a cheat, I think. I think we'd all feel robbed if we found out that Strike, wasn't he intentionally didn't think the right way, so that the readers who are following what he's thinking don't get it. All right. On to Ed Shardlow. Ed Shardlow hasn't. I mean, Ed gives us great value every time he posts. And this is the first time he talks about this. He comes up with. I'm sorry. This one is like the rabbit hole that I just don't want to go down. This is a scary idea, but all right. Ed wrote, the multiple Venus connections in this book, Hallmarked Man, make me wonder if there could be a Planet Narnia type model here, with the 10 Strike books reflecting each of the 8 planets, the sun, and the moon. Wow. I had a sense from my first reading that I was expecting the Masonic thread to be more significant to the story, and yet it sort of diminishes and disappears as the story goes on. Perhaps that's the typically elusive and inscrutable nature of Freemasonry. But also, I don't doubt there's a huge amount of symbolic significance in there too, and perhaps some misdirection and revelation too. Now, I'm on board with the Freemasonry thing. I'm looking over here at how many 10, 12 books I've got on Freemasonry that I have not gone through. There's something more about the Freemasonry stuff. But the focus here, and I think the reason that Nick chose this thing was that Ed is suggesting that we look at the 10 books and see if they line up like Michael Ward has demonstrated that the 7 Chronicles of Narnia line up with the 7 planets of classical renown. Ed has since this time, and I didn't send this to Nick as one of the possibilities because it again, in the flood of new posts, Ed has since posted that we need to look at the 5 suspects for the corpse inside the Silver Vault as aspects of Strike's masculine nature. Basically the dead man, the old man in Pauline language, that Strike is trying to discard here as he tries to become a more loving person. And so each one of those characters is that dead man. And of course, the true dead man is the man who rises from the dead, is the Christ-like, William Wright, if you will. That I love that allegory because it lines up with the psychomachia and all those things. Ed, if you want to do the 10 planets thing, I want you to go for it. I want you to lay out. We see a lot of the Venus connections in this one. Where Strike is basically Venus. Strike is playing the lover in pursuit of his beloved. It's, as Nick has said repeatedly and correctly, this is Strike not being Strike, right? Strike is the avenger, trying to find the truth and all these things. In this book, he only takes the case because it lines up with his desire to hook up with Robin. So yeah, I'll give you that one, Ed. Venus is right here, but which one is Mars? And which one is going to be Jupiter and Saturn? I mean, Saturn I think could line up probably with Troubled Blood, but I mean, Ed, it's a real gauntlet you're throwing down here. But if you get it, we'll know what the last 2 books are going to be, right? Because you're gonna ID 8 of them, and then we'll have 2 left over, and that will be a great clue as to what we're going to see in those books. So, Ed, if you haven't read Planet Narnia yet by Michael Ward, I urge you to do it because it features Castor and Pollux in one of the chapters. So, stand by. We're back to Brenna Hill. This one is my favorite because this is like the tag team. All of us, Brenna just throws out a question, and I say, I don't know. Nick gives the most logical explanation, and I get to explain it. This was great. Anyway, Brenna asked, "What do you make of the name Betty for the new pup? Same name as the colorful witness from Troubled Blood." Smiley face. She wrote, "Delightful to hear about the chocolate history. Not to be missed is Robin gets the message about Roundtree right after her ectopic pregnancy. Another birth and death for the Ellicotts." I said, that it was a great question. I responded, I can tell you what Elizabeth means in Hebrew, but I really doubt that's why this puppy is named Betty. Anyone? I threw out the question, and Nick, I think in seconds, Nick, you replied.
In seconds, I came there with the wrong answer. So I gave you a link.
What do you mean?
I gave you a link to Betty's Tea Rooms in York. Being the soft southerner that I am, I didn't realize that Betty's first and most famous story is in Harrogate. And that is where Robin and her mother go for tea in Career of Evil, and they have the big career conversation. They have teas and cakes in Betty's of Harrogate. Same company, but it's the location's important, I think. So it's known to both mother and daughter, probably known to the family, and therefore I think most likely reason for naming the dog.
Well, I think there's a Betty's in Masham, right, or nearby it, and that's why her mother went there as.
That's exactly it. That's the Harrogate store.
Anyway, whatever the mistake is there, Nick, and I don't get York and Harrogate and all those things. I mean, that's out of my league. But the great catch here is that Rowling is a baker. She loves a good pastry almost as much as chocolate for warm feelings that equate somehow with maternal love. Right? Her stand-in for Christ. Robin's trips to Betty's with Linda in previous books have been all about that. What a great contrast then when Robin is calling out her mother for bitching to Murphy. That's bitching to Murphy about Strike vis-a-vis the Candy article. And Betty the puppy is running for cover, much as Artemis Ellicott is explaining to the overreaching Mater Familias that there are boundaries to maternal love and a world outside it. I think that's the answer to the question about why it's Betty, right? I mean, yeah. Is Betty another Labrador? I mean, I searched the text manual and I couldn't find, the specific.
Yeah,
I assume it's a.
Yeah, I don't think we're given that.
Oh,
My
well,
my assumption, my assumption, because dog owners tend to go for the same breed. My assumption is it'll be the same.
Another chocolate lab, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because there's no breed that goes for an eclair. So I'm guessing that this is a chocolate lab, right? Uh, uh, it's that maternal love connection with Betty also reflects on the meaning of the troubled blood Betty meeting whom caused Robin to realize that even having children was no guarantee of security or happiness. All right, great call, Brenna. All around, that was great.
Wonderful. We have the marvelous Ed Shardlow again, with really his finger on the pulse of what's maybe not what the theme of the book is, but certainly a theme and a new theme for Rowling. So Ed writes, my thought on the point about this being a book of men's issues. This is true, and something I hadn't consciously acknowledged. It immediately made me think about the title. This is the first Rowling book with man in the title. I think I may have overlooked some deeper meaning to the phrase, the Hallmarked Man. We know that the title refers literally to the mutilated body in the vault, but the hallmark on the body is full of symbolism. A hallmark conveys the metallurgical nature of an object, its purity, and some information verifying its origins or past. The central conundrum of the book, something Rowling's titles pretty much always allude to, is the identity of the body. The hallmark indicates that this is a man of value, of silver indeed, and so we have another pearl-like valuable trapped in a box. This is so good. The title could also refer to Strike, a worthy man, mutilated and marked. The book is full of men being weighed and measured, evaluated and verified, and some of them are coming up short. Apparently, the lion passant is the mark applied as part of the hallmark to denote the metal is sterling silver. Wow.
Yeah, great value. I mean, that is great. That is great. Now, Sandy Hope responded.
Yeah.
When asked to describe Hallmark Man in 3 words, Rowling said, "What marks us?" She goes on to talk about the ways both Robin and Strike have been marked by their respective trauma. Strike has one leg intact, and although Robin still has one fallopian tube, it's just as scarred and useless because of the infection a rapist gave her as the one that ruptured and had to be removed. But the rest of their respective bodies still feel the effects of their traumas, so that coping mechanisms they have defaulted to aren't working. Strike conflating things he can't control, an IED blast, or a father who abandoned him, with things that he can, who he sleeps with, and his subsequent rage over the consequences in Robin's people-pleasing, another PP tendencies. Wow, those are both, I mean, those are both post-worthy comments in themselves. And
Yeah.
Really, this idea that all the men in the book are marked somehow, and it's about their purity, and that only the one who is marked with the cross is the true one. And we find out that man is the man who sacrificed himself to save his beloved, who was, a prisoner. The Christ-like man. And that the whole book is in search of that man. And then this goes with Ed's other theory about all the men in the book being aspects especially of the you might call it the male soul, that Strike has to reflect on, has to look at. For example, we've talked before about Strike getting the spade in the face from Danny DeLeon. That on Sark could be that's exactly the person that he needs to look at the closest, because here's a man that's, he's a pornographer. He's a man. He's that Cupid figure that Strike really has to deny, and it hits him in the face in Sark, because he's only on Sark because he was trying to seduce Robin, and of course his Cupid mission on Sark fails, because Robin has been attacked, has been raped by, clearly a Cupid-like figure that just uses and abuses women sexually, and he has to look that in the face, just as he's been hit in the face with that spade. So anyway, really, this is, I think, when we get a better grip on Hallmarked Man, rather than just saying, well, it's a great lead up to 9 and 10, when you get a grip on it in itself as a psychological profiling of Strike and of men in general, it may be a book that stands on its own merits.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. So Ed and Sandy, hats off. That's great. That's great stuff. I mean, that really, we talk about our readers, and they say, oh, you guys are doing so great, and I'm just trying to follow your leads and this and that. A lot of our readers are taking things in directions we hadn't anticipated, and it's great stuff.
And Ed,
if you don't,
and Ed, sorry, John.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Ed, because this is just what he does, I think goes one better. So he starts off reviewing the themes of the book, and then he takes it a level deeper, and then he goes deep. So this is what Ed writes. As I approached the end of my first read through, I noted the following motifs: lions, eyes, bridges, silver, swans, steps. But there's one symbol which is highlighted near the end of the book, which particularly intrigues me, and I think could benefit from rereading and the insights of the community. It is the contrast and clash of stone and metal. There is a strong connection drawn between the clink of a spoon on a teacup and the clang of the bricks falling in the hidden silver in the vault. I am certain that this image has many reflections through the book and is symbolic in some important ways. Maybe the brick and silver represent the mundane and the divine, or soul and spirit, Cormoran and Robin. The gates at Heatherly House are described as being made of iron and brick. The bridge at Ironbridge is cast iron connecting two stone bastions. All the mining and masonry elements have strong connections to the clash of metal tools against stone, as well as the extraction of precious metals from within the stone. Wow.
Yeah. And Sarah Keeler follows that up right away by saying, let's not forget the metal steps outside the office. Robin's heels are so loud on the metal that she doesn't hear Strike following her until he calls to her. You're teasing out something intriguing here, Ed. Yeah, that's it's largely masonry, right? I mean, this is all right. We're going to jump to someone else here. I mean, this is a shame. Every one of these comments is worthy of a full conversation here at Hogwarts Professor, and we're just checking the box. Scroll down here. Next one, All right. This is one of my favorites. All right, Joanna writes, on my birthday, thanks for another engaging episode. I wonder if anyone else had thought of this connection from the running grave as a setup for Hallmarked Man. We hear Pat's husband, Dennis, complaining about the pigeon racing fraud, Fergus McLeod, whose pigeons never left the loft, which, as you pointed out, not only parallels the solution to the Where's Dye-You mystery in Running Grave, but could also reference the Murdoch silver, which never left the shop. Now, I love that. I love that for a bunch of reasons. That repetition makes me suspicious that we'll see another didn't leave the scene in the coming books, a la Margot Bamborough, who's been right there on that street the whole time, Nick, right?
Yeah.
Dye-You, who never left the farm, the pigeons who never left the loft, and the silver that never left the shop. This is like I think it's the very first Edgar Allan Poe mystery, right? Where the letter hidden in plain sight, just left it on the desk and nobody sees it. That seems to be Rowling's message here. And that's not only a hat tip to Edgar Allan Poe and really to the whole genre, but it's really most psychological methodology. Just look at the person's life and you're going to see it as a transparency to their psychological issues. And she's asking us to be more penetrating. Writers like Dickens and Austen, who are pretty high up there in Rowling's pantheon, right? Rowling's pantheon of great writers, those two are up there. They both talked about what they were after was fostering penetration, a transformed vision in their readers. Rowling is hiding this stuff in plain sight, right? And so that's why I really love this thing where this memory of Pat's husband Dennis complaining about Fergus McLeod. That's Rowling saying, hello, that's what we're talking about. It's in plain sight. All right, and I want to leave Nick with this one, which I don't know if this is something that I only discovered by going through every comment thread of every post that we put up since the publication of Hallmarked Man. And that was this horribly neglected thing from Brenna Hill. She says, one more thought that troubles me. If Carmen is formally entangled with Excalibur Man, how sure can we be that little Excalibur, Dirk, is actually Martin's child? I don't like two premature births with doubtful parentage. All right? Now, I think the other premature birth is Decima and Rupert's child, right? Lion. Am I right in that, Nick?
Well, of course, Bijou's was also allegedly premature.
That's much better than mine because we knew who the parents were. Okay, that's good. All right, that's good. But the genius here of Brenna's comment is that Carmen, the femme fatale named woman, names her son Dirk, which is a killing blade, a small blade. And Martin goes crazy because her ex is Excalibur, the freight guy, the bins guy. I totally missed that Carmen named her baby Little Sword, and Martin suspects that Carmen's infatuated with the big sword crazed man. Given the phallic connotations of swords, vagina is the Latin word for sheath, for a sword, right? Martin, the martial man, does not seem quite as Looney Tunes jealous as I thought. Really, Nick, gobsmacked. I am totally, that is so good. That Martin would look at these figures of Excalibur, realize his son is maimed for a knife, and say, "Oh, really? Where has your sheath been lately, honey?" Gosh, and Robin, of course, this is hidden in plain sight. But Robin doesn't make the. I mean, she's laughing all the time about King Arthur, but she doesn't make the connection with Dirk at all. There's no way that Rowling doesn't make that connection. Especially when she's named this woman Carmen, who's the woman who tortures her men. So this is
you could argue that as she's named Carmen, she should be disqualified from naming any children. Obviously, the family have got a problem with names.
Yeah, I don't see how. Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a collection of almost 6,000 LPs, Nick. If you see a fire coming from the west, Nick, it may be if my house catches on fire and all that petroleum lights up at once, I think you may be able to see it in southeastern Wales. But how many of those records, which are all opera and classical music, how many of them are devoted to Carmen? A good part of the flames will be that. And I'm just marveling that until Brenna's comment, I was really sympathetic to Brenna, to Carmen, as she's clearly marked as an outlier, what Carmen would look like today. And I didn't make the name connection at all because, Nick, I've never done any work with names before. Anyway, that's I hope we can stop. That's 15. We've gone through 15 threads here, Nick. Of about 50.
I think for all of our commentators, the ones we've read out and the ones that we haven't read out yet, I think hats off to all of you. Yeah. Just fantastic points, discussions, and comments. We're loving all of them.
I want to loop back to the champion of the set, though.
Yeah.
And that's J.S. Malickson's Murphy killed Charlotte, the Charlotte dirty bomb theory. That is wow. That's got to travel, Nick. That's got to travel. That one is as real legs. Now I'm gonna include down below links, so you can to links to all of these things. I'll just label the 15 with links to where they are in the comment thread, so you can read them all yourself, see the responses and such. And to encourage you to go back and look through those threads if you're not keeping up with them currently. I don't know if everybody who comments gets every new comment on that thread or just responses to their comments, but
I'm not sure. There may be a way of doing that somewhere in the settings, but I'm not sure.
It's there's some great stuff going on there.
Yeah.
All right. Nick and I, we've got a lot going on here because we're going to record the part 1 ring. Nick is still laboring to get part 1 done. Wait until you see part 2, Nick, which is 17 chapters. It's significantly bigger and more complicated. Anyway, and I'm going to do a names post, especially now that I've been embarrassed about Decima and what was the other name, and Fleetwood. Wow. I'm not gonna do those things. I'm not gonna be able to pull up assonances of things throughout the series, but I am going to try and do at least 30 out of the 110 names that we have in this book. I wish I had gotten Dirk. That would have been a real killer find. And we're also going to do a post soon about the new full cast audio edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which Nick apparently has listened to already.
I have,
and has told me that I have to read it.
Yes.
Listen to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more if we do an episode. But I went into it not expecting very much, but really loved it. Really loved it.
Okay, this has already run long as always. Thank you to our subscribers, our free subscribers, and our paid subscribers. God willing, we'll start doing those the ring things. We're going to run through the ring things for the paid subscribers, and then we're going to be talking about Nick's project that cannot be named, and then we'll be talking about Golden Threads classes, and the we're going to get off. We're going to still be doing Hallmarked Man posts. There's still a lot to do with Hallmarked Man, obviously, especially as we go through the structural analysis. But we're going to be going back to tools, springs, threads, and really how to grasp Rowling's work. The 4th generation is not supposed to be totally consumed by the new book, but we're such creatures of habit, Nick. We just can't resist the latest book. It's just too much fun, especially with this community of serious readers. Thanks for making this the hours that Nick and I put into this so rich in payoff.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, John.
Salute.